You ever heard the story of Aaron Davis, the second Prowler after Hobie Brown in the Spider-Man comics, along with having died in both Ultimate Spider-Man and even Into the Spider-Verse? What if I told you that deep within the multiverse, and by extension, the Spider-Verse, there was indeed a variant of Aaron Davis who not only survived, but also reformed despite being the Prowler? Within the universe of Earth 2018, there was a variant of Aaron Davis who, like his other counterpart, sadly ended up going into a life of crime. Of course, he wasn't always a criminal. He was once an innocent child who had big dreams and wanted to be an artist someday, just like another member of the Morales family who would be born years later. Sadly, thanks to him and Jefferson not receiving much support from either of their parents, along with their less than ideal status in Brooklyn, prompting them to do unsavory things they would later regret, Aaron would slowly grow into the infamous criminal that would be known as the Prowler. Though, to be fair, Aaron did try to go straight after finding out his older brother became a police officer and started a family of his own, and helped that he made sure not to cross too many lines when it came to his criminal career. Even so, life wouldn't be so kind to him. Heck, he even took on a job as a construction builder, but of course that didn't last long since he got laid off for financial reasons. Eventually, Aaron did end up getting a stable job thanks to a certain benefactor who ruled New York from the shadows, a benefactor who went by the name Kingpin. Though Aaron was understandably uneasy with someone like Kingpin, as even he was smart enough to realize that working for him wouldn't do well for him in the long run. He felt that he had no other choice as his career options were very limited, plus he didn't want to be seen as a bum or a loser or even a nobody. It also didn't help that he was often forced to fight against respectable police officers such as George Stacy or even his own brother, along with having skirmishes with the Mighty Mutanimals at one point. Not to mention, Aaron often found himself being bullied by his co-workers Tombstone and Scorpion, who barely got along but found common ground in mocking Aaron and making him their personal punching bag. Aaron would quickly find out that being under the Kingpin's thumb and serving as his lackey made him feel even more trapped than before, especially since the Kingpin would punish him severely for failing to take out certain targets and being too soft towards certain people. Sure, stealing and causing property damage was something Aaron didn't mind, as he did plenty of that as a kid, but outright murdering people and causing collateral damage that ended with people dying? That was something he couldn't do, even with the large amount of money that Kingpin waved in his face. Eventually, the last straw came when Aaron was sent on a heist to rob a museum when he was caught by a security guard. The guard obviously had to fight him, and despite his best efforts, Aaron overpowered him and almost went in for the kill, until he saw a picture that the guard had of his family. Realizing that he nearly killed a family man made Aaron realize that being a criminal, let alone one who worked directly under Kingpin, was no life for him, especially since he had a nephew who he cared for deeply, like a son. So, Aaron did what he could do, which was go to Kingpin and beg for him to let him go. Sadly for him, Kingpin would not allow him to leave, despite his pleading, as Aaron knew far too much and was seen as too invaluable to simply let go. He went as far as to threaten Aaron's family if he tried to quit again, which made the reluctant crook realize just how deep he had dug himself and how much he messed up when it came to staying as a crook. In any other situation, he would have called the police and turned himself in if it meant taking down Kingpin and protecting his family, but because Kingpin kept tabs on him and warned him against calling the police, Aaron found himself stuck between a rock and a hard place. Either way, Jefferson would inevitably find out, and so would Rio and Miles, which was something Aaron was desperately trying to avoid as to not break their hearts. But now that he saw the writing on the wall, he knew it was only a matter of time before he would have to face the backlash that would ensue from not only his family, but from the rest of the city. Realizing he had no choice, Aaron decided to go to the one group he felt would help him the most, namely the Mighty Mutanimals, with their leader Leatherhead being kind enough to hear Aaron out despite Aaron being the Prowler, along with having been one of their enemies. They agreed to help protect his family if he turned himself in and confessed to being one of Kingpin's lackeys, to which he wholeheartedly agreed to do so. Unfortunately, things would get complicated when Miles came over one night to hang out with his uncle as usual. While Aaron thought that spending time with his beloved nephew would ease the stress of having the Kingpin and his cronies watching over him, fate wouldn't be so kind to him, as Tombstone and Scorpion showed up uninvited by breaking into his home. With Tombstone claiming that Aaron was too much of a loose cannon and a loose thread, they were sent to kill him by Kingpin himself, or willing to kill Miles as well. Miles was understandably left confused and scared of what they meant by that, but before Aaron could explain what was going on, Scorpion would cruelly reveal Aaron's secret by showing him evidence of Aaron's crimes as the Prowler, while also claiming that Aaron never liked Miles and saw him as nothing more than a cover. Aaron desperately tried to deny this claim, as he genuinely did love Miles, but in his fear and newfound distrust in his uncle, Miles would reject him and even call him a monster as a result of this revelation. Aaron could only look on in heartbreak and devastation as the secret was revealed, but in the worst way possible. He had intended to tell Miles about a secret, but on his own terms, yet Kingpin and his cronies had to yank it away from him, and in such a heartbreaking manner too. As they were too distracted by this scene, Tombstone and Scorpion almost killed the two men until they were distracted by the timely arrival of the mighty Botanimals, who came to save them after sensing something terrible was going to happen at Aaron's home. Though they were able to beat them back, with Leatherhead calling in an anonymous tip to the police, things wouldn't end so happily, as Tombstone and Scorpion managed to get away scot-free, with Miles having gotten scarred from the experience, metaphorically and literally. Even worse, the ones who were sent to investigate the situation was Jefferson Davis himself, who could only look on in shock and confusion over the damage. But the moment he found out about Aaron's connection to Kingpin and how he had unwittingly endangered Miles' life in the process, betrayal was written all over his face, which stung Aaron even more. Aaron was forced to turn himself in, arrested by his own brother nonetheless, with Miles looking on helplessly. Now regretting the harsh words he said to his uncle, he pleaded for his father to not arrest him, but Jefferson sadly declined, as not even his own family member was above the law, and he had to uphold it as a member of the police. Needless to say, Miles was devastated by this turn of events, with Aaron being unable to console his nephew as he was taken away, with his last words to Miles being that he was grateful for him being in his life. Miles could only run after the police car in a futile attempt at stopping him, only to fall on the ground and weep in sorrow over the tragic turn of events. The young man would then be escorted home by the mighty Botanimals, with Leatherhead consoling Miles as much as he could. By the time Miles arrived home, he broke down in his mother's arms over the terrible events that occurred. As if things weren't bad enough, Aaron would be sentenced to 25 years in prison due to theft as well as property damage, harm to innocents, and his connections to Kingpin not helping his case. Jefferson would viciously chew him out for betraying his trust as well as his family's trust in him, while also pointing out how Aaron could have ruined his reputation because of their relation, with people already accusing the Morales family of having known about Aaron being the Prowler. Aaron could only hang his head in shame and take in the sharp criticisms from his brother and even his sister-in-law over the whole debacle, and how Miles almost got killed because of him, with Miles being forbidden from ever seeing him again. While Aaron decided to ultimately do the right thing, it came at a tragic cost. His brother, along with his sister-in-law, and even his beloved nephew's respect for him being shattered, Aaron himself would be seen as nothing more than a criminal. The Kingpin managed to get the last laugh and got off scot-free, for now. And finally, Aaron would find himself all alone in prison, with his reputation and skills being the only thing preventing him from potentially dying at the hands of some other crooks. Either way, it seemed as though he would forever be stuck in prison for the rest of his life, with nobody giving him a chance. However, fortune would eventually smile upon him years later, as Aaron would be given the opportunity of a lifetime, namely, a chance to be a hero and redeem himself one day. Will Aaron Davis ultimately redeem himself? Will he be able to get out of jail while reconciling with his family, especially his nephew? Find out next time on